We have successfully defined music and have seen the four identifiable characteristics of musical sound. Now, I want us to talk about notation. Why am I speedily going to notation? I believe that music is like language. When you study a particular language, the summary of what you study in every language is how to read, write, and what again? Read, write, and speak. So in music too, when we study music, music is like language. When we study music, we are more interested in how to speak, that is sing, read, that is interpret, and write, which is composition. These three things. So, and for you to be able to speak, write, and read, or sing, interpret, and compose, you must know the language very well. And for you to know any language very well, first of all, you must learn the alphabets of that language. That is why we first of all have to learn the alphabets that makes a language, that makes this our language. Now, musical sound, for us to know how to read, you must also know the alphabets of this language. These alphabets are like codes for sounds produced when you speak them. In the English language, the alphabets are like codes of the sound for each of the alphabets. And so also in music, we also have such codes to represent the sounds we produce. So musical sounds are represented with the first 7 letters of the English alphabet, namely A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. These are the 7 letters of the English alphabet we use to represent our musical sound. What is notation? Notation is the act of writing down music. Music is made up of a variety of symbols, the most basic of which are the staff, the clef, and the notes. All music contains these fundamental components, and in order to learn how to read music, you must first familiarize yourself with these basics. Music is easier to study and share if it is written down. This is one of the most important things, why we write music. Western music specializes in long, complex pieces for large group of musicians, singing or playing parts exactly as a composer intended. How do we do that if they are not written down? So that is why notation is one of the most important aspects of music. Alright, there are types of notations. Before now, there have always been different types of notations in existence. But I'm going to talk about the 2 basic notations that we have in this era. They include the cipher notation and the staff notation. By far, the most widespread way of writing music is the staff notation. What is this staff notation? The staff is written as 5 horizontal parallel lines. In between the lines are 4 spaces. Most of the notes of the music are placed on one of these lines or in the space in between the lines. The staff is written as 5 horizontal parallel lines. In between the lines are 4 spaces. Most of the notes of the music are placed on either of the lines or the spaces. The staff consists of 5 parallel lines. The plural of the word staff is stave. Each of those lines and each of those spaces represent the different letters, which in turn represents a note. Those lines and the spaces represent notes named A to G, like I mentioned above, and the note sequence moves alphabetically up the staff, and in other words, pitches are named using the first 7 letters of the English alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay, immediately after the 5 lines and 4 spaces, that's what we call clef signature. The clef signature is seen on the far left hand side of every staff. There are several different kinds of clef, but the 2 most frequent used are the treble clef, known as the G clef, and the bass clef, known as F clef. When the G clef or treble clef is placed on the staff, that is the 5 lines and 4 spaces, the staff is known as a treble staff. And when the bass staff clef is placed on the staff, 5 lines and 4 spaces, the staff is known as the bass staff. When we have the treble clef on the staff, the names of the lines and spaces are configured in line with the treble staff. The treble staff is known as the G clef because it started from the second line, known as G, coils through the 3rd and the 1st line, goes up, comes down, moving across the 4th line and to the 1st line, below the 1st line, and coils back. Since the treble staff is known as G clef and it started from the 2nd line known as G, we can take it from there. The first space before the 2nd line, which is G, that space is known as F because alphabetically it is F before G. And before that F is our 1st line, which is E because it is E before F, and then the 2nd line, which is G. Immediately after G is the 2nd space, which is A. Immediately after the 2nd space is the 3rd line, which is B. Immediately after the 3rd line is the 3rd space, which is C. After the 3rd space, which is C, is the 4th line, which is D. Immediately after the 4th line, which is D, is the 4th space, E. And after the 4th space, E, the last line, 5th line, is F. That is why alphabetically we have the names of the lines and spaces of the treble staff as E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Now when you take them separately, the lines from the spaces, you discover that the lines are, 1st line is E, 2nd line is G, 3rd line is B, 4th line is D, and the last line, the 5th line, is F. The spaces are as follows. The first space is F, 2nd space is A, 3rd space is C, and the last space, which is the 4th space, is A. These are the names of the lines and the spaces. Note this. If you must interpret music, you must know the names of these lines and the spaces the way you know your name. You know your name so dearly that anywhere your name is called, you can always answer. And you cannot forget your name. That is the way you must know these names of the lines and spaces. However, for us to memorize this, we use some mnemonic common mnemonic is to remember the notes of the lines and spaces of the treble staff, like the lines as we have E, G, B, D, F, by the word Q, every good boy deserves favor. Similarly, the space is spelled itself face, F-A-C-E, like the face. Names of the lines and spaces of the bass staff. The bass clef is known as F clef because it started from the fourth line known as F, coils like a question mark down to the second line and with a colon by the side. So the fourth line is known as F. Immediately after the fourth line, above is the fourth space known as G. And after G, the last line is known as A. Below F is the third space known as E. Below E is the third line known as D. Below D is the second space known as C. And below C is the second line known as B. Below B is the first space known as A, and below A is the first line known as G. Therefore, we have the lines and spaces starting from the first line below. We have G, first space A, second line B, second space C, third line D, third space E, fourth line F, fourth space G, and lastly the fifth line known as A. Therefore, the names of the lines and spaces of the bass staff are G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. A common mnemonic to remember notes, names of the lines of the bass staff is, first of all, the lines G, B, D, F, A. We can use good boys do fine always. We can also use that of the space A, C, E, G as all cattle eat grass. One should remember these statements. Good boys do fine always. So remember first, second, third, fourth. For instance, the lines good boys do fine always. So when you want to remember the name of the third line, you say good boys do, that is D. If you want to remember the last line, do good boys do fine always, A. That is how we use it to remember these names of the lines and the spaces. There is what we call ledger lines. Ledger lines are small lines written above or below the staff. They are small horizontal lines written above the staff or below the staff. It is used to write notes that are high above the 5 lines, that is the staff, for higher pitches, and those low below the staff, that is the 5 lines and spaces. Those pitches that are lower than the 5 lines and the spaces. These are what we use the ledger lines to do, either above the staff or below the staff. Then for those who play piano or even to interpret song, it is very important to notice a particular place we call middle C. The meeting point between the two clefs and the pitch is the middle C. It is the point in between the treble and the bass staff. On the treble staff, it is the first ledger line below the treble staff, while on the bass staff, it is the first ledger line above the bass staff, that is the middle C. It is the C that occurs at the middle of a piano keyboard. If you look at 5-octave piano keyboard, 5-octave means that there are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D into 5. When you count the first two here and the first two from above, at the middle range, that particular C at that middle scale or that middle range of that 5-octave piano is the middle C, and that is the center of the piano.